Economic science is, to begin with, not a science, in the same way that mathematics is not a science and philosophy is not a science. In my understanding, maybe it's an Anglo-Saxon understanding, but nevertheless, economics is not a science like physics is, like biology, in the sense that we do not produce verifiable or falsifiable theories, but we do produce logical systems that help sharpen our thinking regarding the economic circumstances that we face. The problems that economics faces, which in a sense transcends schools of thought. This is a problem that pertains to neoclassical economics, to Keynesian economics, even to Marxist economics. The problem we face is this. The moment we try to emulate the natural sciences, the hard sciences, mathematics, by turning the world out there into a mathematical model of economic variables, the problem we face is that in order to solve this mathematical model, because without a solution, you can frame economic dynamics beautifully, mathematically, but without the solution, you cannot answer any questions using that model. In the same way that in mathematics, if you have a system of n equations in many more unknowns, it's a beautiful system, but it's irrelevant because you can't solve for it. To solve the system of equations that is our mathematical economic model, we have to make assumptions that move us away from really existing capitalism. So we face a huge trade-off. Either we solve the system and then we have something definite to say, but what we say is irrelevant to really existing capitalism, or we don't solve the system, in which case we don't have much to say about even our own model. That is a conundrum. That is almost a classical tragedy that economists face. Economists have a tendency to solve the model because you cannot pursue a career without actually publishing something that has some tangible hypothesis, that has certain theorems, which you can then try to ascertain whether those theorems are supported or falsified by the data, by empirical means. So careers are made on the basis of forcing solutions upon models by means of usually of hidden assumptions, which ensure that your theories are going to be absolutely relevant to really existing capitalism. So the more successful we are theoretically, the less relevant we are to the economic world that we live in. And this is a major explanation of the fact that economic theory has never been able to illuminate the real problems that practitioners of economics face, whether you're functioning at the level of government, at the level of a corporation, of a bank, of a central bank, OECD, the IMF. In the end, policy is driven by politics, by vested interests, by the profit margins of corporations. And then at the end of the day, you can come up with any justification using the mathematical models and the economic models. And that means that in the end, the mathematical economic models of different economic schools of thought, doesn't matter which one we're talking about, end up as a legitimizing veneer, an ideology that appears as a science, which it is not. And therefore, because we, as economists, we can only understand one thing, really, how lucrative monopoly is, by creating these wonderful mathematical economic models that are exceptionally complicated and aesthetically very pleasing, whether we're talking about, dynamic general equilibrium models or game theory or, microeconomics and so on. Those are so complicated that only a handful of people understand them. People out there who do not understand them think that it must be that, those who do understand them are the experts. Those who understand them are experts in understanding those models, but they have no clue of how the economy works. So you have a feedback effect between economics as a legitimizing ideology, a little bit like, theology in the Middle Ages. Extremely complicated, aesthetically pleasing, very interesting discussions between theologians. You couldn't have an opinion about matters of state in the Middle Ages if you didn't know your Bible upside down, if you couldn't have very complicated conversations about the filioque and various other dogmatic discussions between the Catholics and the Orthodox and so on and so forth. But of course, this was all a veneer for the fact that a certain power grid was replicating itself using very interesting logical arguments and pseudoscientific constructs in order to legitimize the exclusion of the many from the decisions that affected them and the reproduction of systems of power.